Ah, snap. Welcome to the Sloppy Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Ramey, and this episode will be Week in Review. Today is Sunday, April 21st. That's right, it's Easter 2019. Hope you guys had a good holiday, or if you don't celebrate it, hope you had a good weekend. Yesterday was 420, so I hope you guys are all remembering the Columbine victims. And I think there's something else that goes on, but I digress. Here we go. In this week in review, we got some stuff to talk about. I'm going to talk about the Curse of La Llorona, give you my full review on that, and the Sloppy Horror Podcast review. Show you how I rank it, if you guys remember from last week. Also going to go a little bit in on the Lorraine Warren, R.I.P., sad news that happened this week, and then also found a cool article that I figure everybody should know about, because I kind of felt we'll just get into it. You'll figure it out. All right, so I want to talk about the Curse of La Llorona. Okay, I was pretty psyched to see this movie. I saw the trailer. It was real creepy. I'm not sure if you guys saw the trailer, but it looked really good. I actually work with a Mexican fella, and he had told me that the Curse of La Llorona was a real thing. He did. And he said, no, that's real shit, man. He showed me a video. Now whether it's real or not, I don't know, but it looked pretty real, man. It looked really real. Really freaky. And he said, that's a tradition. That's a folklore down there. That's not just a movie. That's real deal Holyfield. So my friend, he's not a giant horror fan, so it was just neat to hear someone that's not a horror fan actually interested in a horror movie and saying like, oh man, that's a cool subject. So it kind of sparked my interest for it, plus the cool trailer. The director, this is his director debut, and his name's Michael Chavez, and we've talked about directors before. I don't always know if it's your first movie and it's a horror movie. That doesn't tell me anything. That means this could be because this is part of the Conjuring series. So if you didn't know that, it's another installment. I believe it's the 6th installment now. But this movie, it's perfect for a new director. It's a perfect shot to say, hey man, you want to make it big time, make this movie, see what you could do, because it's already got a large audience. So it was I'm going to move on to if you just go real quick on how I rate the movies. If you guys remember, it's 10 out of a 10 is a perfect movie. I have some categories that I rank them with points. My first category I'm going to go ahead and get into is casting. This movie wasn't, I don't want to say anybody did a horrible job at casting, but I didn't feel a real strong connection between characters. There were times where the plot was a little dry because there wasn't much spark between the characters, so I don't know. It wasn't a big home run for me when it comes to casting. It had Linda Cardellini as the mom, and she did well. I like her in a lot of stuff. She's kind of been really relevant lately. It's kind of weird, but I remember her from Boy Meets World. She kissed Corey Matthews up at the ski lift. Topanga was pissed. Not scary, but hey, it was cool. That was my jam, my peanut butter and jam. She did well as the mom. I tell you, my favorite dude in this, my favorite casting in this is Raymond Cruz, and he played like this kind of rough around the edges priest. And if you don't know Raymond Cruz, I'm sure you do. He's played in quite a few things. If you guys remember Training Day, he was one of the Spanish guys when they were going to kill Ethan Hawke in the bathroom, and they had him all in a bathtub. He was that guy who's like, let's fucking do him, man. He's just crazy. And then he was also Tuco in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So if you're familiar with him, he's really good in this movie. I think in my eyes, he was the one that really brought it in for me and at least kept me entertained. So spoilers are always ahead in my show when I review a movie. So if you haven't seen it, I don't try to give you too much, just a little bit to nibble on. But there will be things that in the movie that I talk about. So in this movie, the mom, she's a caseworker. She works for the city and she's a caseworker and helps out children. And to start off the movie, she goes to check in to do like a welfare check on a mom and her two boys. And when she gets there, the mom's fucking bugged out. There's like candles lit all over the place. She's just tripped out. And the mom, Linda Cardellini, she comes in, caseworker, and she says, yo, you've been drinking again. What's going on? Where are the boys? And these boys are locked in a closet in a back room with a bunch of creepy shit written all over the closet door. And she's like, what the fuck? So she opens up the kids, gets them out of there. All of a sudden, things get bad because that mom gets arrested. The bad mom, who we think is a bad mom, gets arrested. Well, then all of a sudden, a few days later, the boys die. And the caseworker, Linda Cardellini, goes and interviews the mom who's in jail for supposedly being a bad mom. She gets accused of killing her kids. She says, oh my goodness, you took them out of that closet. Now, La Llorona got her. I got my kids, So she's like, what the fuck? She doesn't understand. Then all of a sudden, markings start coming up on her kids. So she ends up trying to go back and befriend that mother to kind of get advice. So I don't want to give you too much, but she also goes to the church, and this is where the only really reoccurring character from the Conjuring series ties in. She goes in to see the priest from the earlier movies, like the Annabelle, Father Perez, and she's like, yo, I need your help. I'm seeing, La Llorona, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, look, I can't really help you without the church's approval, and that takes a long time to get. So he recommends her to Raymond Cruz's character. And he's like, look, he used to be with us, but he has his own ways. They're unorthodox. He's like a little different. And he's kind of a badass, man. He's like a almost Van Helsing-esque, or almost like a Clint Eastwood meets a priest. He's just a cool character. So if anything, whoever casted him, they did a good job at keeping him, because he kept my interest throughout. Ever since he popped up in it, it saved the movie. But besides that, nothing was really grabbed me too strong. So I'm going to have to give casting a 1 out of 3. We're going to move on to kills. Kills wasn't... Certain movies these days, I guess if I have to give a gripe, what grinds my gears, there's a lot of CGI in the scares now, which is great. They're great for when I take my daughter to the movie theater or when I watch with my girlfriend. But some of us need our brain tweaked a little. We need to be fucked a little. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not just looking for a pop out. It's just not always going to get me. It's not always going to work for me. Of course, anybody can be pop scared, but I need more. I need more substance. But there's a new trend with horror that horror has always been for a younger crowd, but I want to say it was for rock and roll fans, for metal fans. There was just a dash of morbid to it that I just don't see these days. I feel like the main audience they're trying to scare are young girls. And there's nothing wrong with that, but when you have, if you want to call your movie a horror movie, I'm expecting a little bit of gore. It doesn't have to be over the top. That's not what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be over the top. But I need a little bit of something. In this movie, nothing was really too over the top. It was pretty basic. Nothing we haven't seen before. It's a really loud pop scare, and then that person's dead. So there's no torture. There's no, it's just nothing too much. So, how I was talking about a director and his first time producing a horror movie, well, you can expect it's going to if you have a scary movie every once in a while goer, then he's probably gonna make a good movie for them. The occasional scary movie maker will probably make a good movie for the occasional scary movie seer. But I want something a little deeper and a little darker. So I think you could be afraid from it. I do. I do think it has its moments, but kills, it's nothing. It's really nothing. So this is going to be another 1 out of 3. I can't even think of anything more to go in on it. So that's how low it is. I'm going to go forward before I give it a half a point. So it's getting 1 point. So it's at 2 altogether so far. And then I'm going to move into my next category, which is the scare meter, the fear meter. This is going to score a little bit better than the other categories. It did have some great moments, some good pop scares, and I don't know how much this fucking movie cost. I haven't looked anything to budget-wise, but there's a shitload of CGI in this movie, and it's done really well. She's pretty creepy. She has like a Left 4 Dead witch kind of feel. I don't know if you guys played that game at all, but she sits there, she cries. You come up to her, she fucks you up. She comes after your kids. I think this is a terrifying movie if you're a single mother. I mean that with no sarcasm either. I mean, I said in my last podcast how a movie like The Birds is fucking super scary to me because I don't like birds. But to somebody who maybe has a bird in their house, they could find that movie comical. So if you're a single mom or if you're a mother, I really do think this movie would get you at your core. There were moments because I actually took my daughter to see with me this time. I didn't go alone. I still had my blue icy, but I took her, and sometimes that's fun too because that's a true fan or an honest crowd reaction right there. And she was terrified. She was watching the movie through my armpit the whole time. So that's always pretty funny. But I'm going to give it a 2 out of 3. I'm not going to give it a 3 out of 3. It wasn't there for me because it didn't really leave with me. Because that's what it doesn't matter. A horror movie doesn't have to be an amazing picture like something like The Godfather. It doesn't. That's not what we're looking for. I look for a movie that resonates with me when I leave. Something that changes your way of thinking without you even know about it. Quick example how I can give to you. Okay, you're driving down the road, turn down the street, you pull up behind a semi, and there's a bunch of logs on the back of it. What's the first thing you think of? Some Final Destination. You immediately want to get out of that lane. Is Final Destination a masterpiece? Is it an award-winning? I mean, I don't know. It probably did win awards, but it's nothing that's going to go on the Wall of Fame. But it's something that left with you, and that's what makes it great. It's something that literally changed your way of thinking for the rest of your life, and you don't even really think about it, but it just does. So going back to the fear meter, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 3 for this movie, and that's going to take us all together to a 4, and that's a 4 out of 10 so far. So that brings us to our last category, and that's the fucks with the category. And if I do or do not, and this is only a 1-point thing, and sometimes it could be the deciding factor in a 10 out of 10 movie. But today it will not be. Even though the casting wasn't great, didn't feel strong about the connection, I'm not coming to see a plot. I'm not coming to see something to tear up my heart. But at the end of the day, it was a scary movie, and it was a cheap thrill. It was a one-night stand horror movie. It's something that I could be with tonight, forget about tomorrow. But it's definitely something I would rather watch versus a love movie, a romance, or a drama. So I do fucks with it. This movie is going to be a 5 out of 10, and that is the final score. That's going to be the final score for the Sloppy Horror Podcast. I do recommend watching it, but not something that you're going to have to rush to the theaters and see. You can maybe wait to DVD for this one. But if you see it in the movies too, it's not a waste. So, like I was saying, it doesn't have to be a giant blockbuster. I don't need Leonardo DiCaprio. I love him, but he doesn't have to be in my horror movie. That doesn't exactly make it for me. So I don't know. It's pretty cool though. I'm kind of pumped that it's a real thing, that it's a real story. If you guys get bored at some point and want to YouTube some stuff, you should go YouTube La Llorona real video. Man, there's a video where this guy's in a desert. I don't know if he's in a car or if he's on like a motorbike, but holy shit. I mean, it looks real and it is, I don't know what the hell it is, but it ain't right, man. It ain't right. I don't like it. It's not good. Yeah, it was freaky, man. And I go in with a grain of salt with most paranormal videos and things like that. I'm obviously really interested in the subject, but I'm also realistic at the same time. But I never deny. I never want to keep a closed door. I always like to keep things open. But man, I tell you, I didn't feel right after watching that one. Okay, I'm gonna move on and just do a little quick RIP for Lorraine Warren. If you guys are unfamiliar with her, she had passed away Thursday, and she passed away at the age of 92. And she is the inspiration for the Conjuring movies. She's she's the woman who helped with the Annabelle doll in real life. And she's also the woman who helped with the Lutzes and the Amityville case, which is pretty cool. And she had a few other things. I mean, where she like exorcised demons out of people supposedly, and one time where she had exorcised a werewolf out of somebody. And this is some crazy shit because she is. Oh, I mean, that's not some normal. Like for now, if you were to see some shit like that pop up, and maybe from 87 to currently, you wouldn't question it because that's kind of our interest. But this woman was born in 1926. I'm not quite sure if that's the shit people were into and talking about back then. I don't know how you get into the clairvoyant lifestyle, but she did. And man, what an influence to the genre. I mean, whether you like the Conjuring movies or not, and she's brought in a lot of money into the genre, and I can definitely appreciate that. And she's also brought a lot of money into New Line Cinemas, which is the house that Freddy Krueger built. And Jason's been on and off of it. But regardless, it's a house of horror. And it makes me happy to see that there's money back into it. So what a life she's had, man. Pretty cool. So the Sloppy Horror Podcast definitely wants to give her remembrance of her life and a big RIP. Definitely thankful for all the work that she's inspired in my genre. Hey, if you liked Amityville, man, that was a hell of a movie. All right, so I gotta share something with you guys that I found. I was on the Bloody Disgusting website, which they're pretty, I can't deny, they're a pretty good website. I like a lot of their articles, and I was on there and I found an article that I have to talk about. This is crazy. Okay? First off, let me start with saying, picture like an iconic character like Batman. What's like the main thing with if you're not familiar with Batman, then you can just listen and learn a little bit about him too. But what's one of Batman's biggest morals? What's the thing that he doesn't do? He doesn't kill. He doesn't kill people. He doesn't shoot people. That's part of his character. That's just who he is. That's what people say. That's like a main reason why some people love Batman. That's a main reason. But that's just part of who he is. That's what he does. Picture if Kel didn't love orange soda. That's just who he is. That's just a part of his character. Well, imagine, and there actually is, but there is some comics that can kind of go along with this story here, but imagine if there was a whole slew of comics, or maybe a few scenes in the movies or TV shows that had been cut out where Batman had killed a bunch of people, where it was a part of a story but it just was cut out and we didn't see it. Well, that would be pretty crazy if it was in the story, because it would change that character forever. You're literally defining who they are, because the minutes to the second that these people have on film, that is how these characters are psychoanalyzed by cult fans and really broken down. So one word said one way or one action done one way, that changes the whole thing. And maybe you lose some fans because of that, or maybe you gain some fans. It's a butterfly effect. So, I'm on the Bloody Disgusting, and I find this article by John Squires. I think that's how I pronounce his last name. If I butchered it, sorry, man. Well, John wrote an article talking about HalloweenMovies.com, and what they do, they kind of look for, they're a good supplier of old horror movies, so, they go find lost footage from old films, deleted scenes, and things like that. So what they did was they began a search for lost footage for Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So if you guys remember that one, that's had a young Danielle Harris in it. That was the second installment with her, where she was in the hospital and she was kind of a mute from what had happened in the first episode with her. So there was an interview. They did an interview with Don Shanks, and Don Shanks is the man who played Michael Myers in that movie. And apparently, there were some deleted scenes that would have changed Michael Myers for the course of history. And honestly, I'm kind of thankful that it didn't happen that way, but man, I do want to fucking see him, because it would be so sweet. So check me out. I quote, "Oh, I took out Haddonfield's SWAT team. I killed a whole bunch of people," end quote. It gets a little crazier. I'm going to go in deeper here. Okay, he continued, quote, "It took place at the hospital, the place where Danielle's character left from. If you remember, the police get on the radio in the film and they say, 'He's here,' and the whole SWAT team, which is stationed at the Myers house, gets in their cars and drive off. And there's one guy left in the house with Danielle in the bedroom. And there's no one guy below in the police car. And over the radio, he hears people screaming. So that's where the SWAT massacre scene was to be." Wait, end quote. So, hold on. A SWAT massacre. So he had my interest, right? I'm getting into this. He said, "There's one guy, and I mean to show it when they're taking out the bodies whose head is all the way twisted around. They put a wardrobe on him backwards, and he looks like his head's been twisted 180 degrees. And another, the direction was, take an M16 rifle, and you just start walking through these guys and killing them." So the director had told him, take an M16 rifle and just walk through and start killing guys. So, hold on. You're telling me Michael Myers shot a gun? That's what this man's trying to say. Now, his quotes are kind of spotty how they put them on here, so I'm trying to give you the abridged version. But what he did is he said, "I put an M16 through his head and to another guy. I broke his neck and stomped on it and shot him." So the whole idea was that you'd hear everybody screaming over the radio when he's killing everybody. So we all did these really quick shots. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm not going to keep going on with his quotes, because I'll give you a little better version here. What he's saying is when Danielle was in the hospital, because I remember that, he was going to go through and he killed all the police officers versus hiding from them, how they would plan it out in the original. The deleted scene would have changed that, and he would have went through, stomped guys' heads in, picked up an M16 rifle, and shot through a bunch of people. What? You're telling me Michael Myers has a gun? Holy shit, man. What would that have done to his character? I mean, think about it already. He drove a car, and that kind of gives him a different element. Hey man, you think Jason would beat up Michael? I don't know, man. Michael drives a car. So that already changes the course of his history. So imagine if he had some gun skills, man. Imagine if any of these slashers had gun skills like that. That would be some crazy shit. So I read that and I thought, I gotta talk about this article. I really, really do. It was just really neat, and I hope that the website really posts something and they put up the deleted scenes. Because that would be super cool, because it's out there. It's in a vault somewhere. There's some horror god somewhere with that film reel, and he's got a cat on his lap, and he's not going to let go of it. But I hope he does, man, because that'd be really cool to see. It really would. But I'm kind of glad it didn't go through, because I like Michael without the guns. He's got the brute force. So holy shit, man. That's pretty mind-blowing. Pretty mind-blowing. Michael Myers has been played by quite a few people. It's been directed by quite a few people. But I have to say, in my opinion, the movies that struck the most with me are 4 and 5, the ones with Danielle Harris. But I want to say a lot of that's nostalgia. It was just perfect time for me. It was early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, just when I was young, and they were good movies. They really were. Obviously, I watch all of them. I can watch them all in a row. I really enjoyed Rob Zombie's installments as well, because I love all of Rob Zombie's horror movies. I'm not going to deny that. I love his brutalness in it. It doesn't have to make sense to me. It doesn't have to really... You don't have to give me a big song and dance, but I just want some brutal shit. And he's done a good job at that. And a lot of people were offended with his remakes, but I wasn't at all. I'm not going to rank them or put them above any or say anything to that nature, but I thought he did a really good job. And I liked his remake better than this current remake this year. I will say that. New one this year just was different. It was different for me. If you're going to change up the whole storyline, then don't bring back Jamie Lee Curtis at all as a main character. I don't want to have to learn her as a different person in the story. That's just too much. It's too hard of a pill to swallow. If you want to give her a cameo, that's cool. Maybe she works in the gun store when these people go to buy a gun to fight him. I don't know. But you don't have her as like a main character, but just switch the whole story up. That's too much. I know their intentions were good, but alright, this next Lord of the Rings, Frodo doesn't have the ring. What? Well, that's kind of not what the fuck's been happening in the whole franchise, so that's a little weird. I don't know. Wasn't that great for me. But that's the life of being the horror fan. Not all of it's great, but I'm not looking for great. And I don't think all horror fans do either. It can have rough edges. Most horror fans are rough around the edges. So that's completely fine. But let's hope... I'll keep you guys posted on that too. If I find that they post that video of the deleted scenes of Michael Myers going and running through a SWAT team and putting M16s through people. First off, through people. Huh? That would be pretty badass. And then shooting people on the other side, stomping their head in. It'd be pretty neat to see. So... I'll let you guys know if I see something like that. This week I'm going to have another episode out for you guys to check out. And then obviously at the end of the week, you guys can expect my week in review as always. So cool. I hope you guys had a good Easter. I appreciate you guys checking me out for this 2 double holiday weekend. And La Llorona, once again, 5 out of 10. I fucks with it, so if you guys want to check it out, I wouldn't say it's a waste of money, but hey, if you guys wait till DVD, maybe not a bad option. Might be a movie that you want to keep your lights on with if your old lady ain't the type to watch scary movies. So Thank you once again for joining me, guys. Be on the lookout again. I'm gonna have all my podcasts soon up on a lot of platforms, so be on the lookout for that as well. So I'll keep you guys posted as this thing grows. So it's Sunday, April 21st. This is the Sloppy Horror Podcast. I'm Christian Ramey, and I'm out.